first enclosure was. For those of you who have not been with us for the last 14 years, this was once home to one of the fox enclosures. Basil had been isolated from Angel for the first few days to see how they would get along through the fence. I'm quite convinced he spent those days watching where she hid his food, because as soon as we dumped him into the enclosure with Angel, he ran around, uncovered all of her food, piled it together, and sat there looking for the remote.
I had a great time walking Basil, and he was a really great little fox. I can obviously still feel him licking my hand.
Before we had Dr. Julia, Basil was looked after, and the other foxes and the wolves, by Dr. Dave Harper. Dr. Dave was going through a hard time in his life at one point, and he came out here looking very down in the dumps, and he left Basil's pen smiling because Basil climbed on his head and sat with his tail across Dr. Dave's face, wagging it like a metronome. Basil used to like to sit on people's heads and do that. Unfortunately, it came to an end when a videographer from Indianapolis came up here, and I'm convinced he was given the assignment as a punishment because it turned out he did not like animals. And Basil happily climbed up on his head to cheer him up, and he screamed, "Get it off me! Get it off me!" And Basil gave up climbing on people's heads after that. But he was still very nice to people, just in other ways.
I knew Basil only from the outside, but I liked him nevertheless, like I liked all the wolves.
You sat in the fox enclosure one time with a laser pointer, and he and Corey had fun with it.
I remember that.
I'll never forgive you for rugby over.
How you doing? Not too bad.
You're
I haven't even read 30 seconds.
Oh, here, I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle him ahead of time.
We do this in love. We just want to mention that.
Yeah, what I would like to
people
say,
back
we were
to here.
talking about Basil stories, is just Basil was one of those foxes and animals that you just,
Loud enough for people in back to hear.
well, he's kind of a once in a million kind of guy, and one of the things I remember is that when he broke his leg, and I can remember because I got to go to the vet with him, and I remember coming out from x-rays and going, "You guys didn't tell me he already had a pin," and the absolute double take of every one of us in the room going, "Huh?" And from that, I guess, and from some of the mysteries of his origin, we always kind of joked that we thought Basil was a CIA operative. But based on our kind of love and devotion, and especially towards his later years, everybody doing whatever, bringing him, Twizzlers or chicken nuggets or basically whatever Baz wanted, Baz should get. And that with a little too much time sitting out in the puppy pen that one summer and a little too much Harry Potter influence, came up with a little poem. It does require audience participation. Katie will help you with that. Your only line is "Hail Lord Basil." Just turn that in. Okay. Basil is our king, for him we would do anything. It'd be so nice if you'd fetch me some mice.
Hail Lord Basil.
Cut the long hair off my derriere.
Hail Lord Basil.
Grass needs a mowing, interns get going.
Hail Lord Basil.
Twizzlers are the thing when you are the king.
Hail Lord Basil.
There's metal in my arm, it adds to the charm.
Hail Lord Basil.
Basil is our king, for him we do anything.
Hail Lord Basil. And I also loved, it was always fun if we could find an excuse to take a wolf or a dog past that enclosure, because Basil was under the impression that everyone in the world was looking to be his friend, any large animal in particular. And so you bring any dog past his enclosure and you would just hear, "Wah!" And then out would come Basil, waving his tail and rolling over and grinning and just being so happy to meet an animal that usually wanted to eat him.
You can be generous with the pinches. We've got plenty of ash to go around.
It's right there.
I don't want to walk on Basil.
With Basil, what I'm going to miss is taking the kids in with them. The day camps, the overnighters, the junior volunteers, how much happiness he brought to the kids when they actually got to touch a wild animal. And he was always so good with them. Even the year that he bit through Amanda's boot, he never bothered any of the kids. He just really was good with them.
Basil also had arthritis, which I'm pretty sure everybody knows. And as I work in the drug business, I called Jess one day and I said, "If that little fox needs drugs, we'll get him drugs." And I've been supplying the Adequan for the animals ever since. Pat got the last load about 20 minutes ago. And the account has Basil's name on it. Goodbye.
During his last 6 months of getting nearly daily walks, he was the envy of the coyotes, and I kept informing them if they were nicer to people, they would get to go for walks as well. So here, up yours. Generous man, that's all it
My favorite part of walking Basil was watching him say, "Up yours," to all of the critters that he passed. So, from Basil.
I'm standing over here, guys.
After Basil's second adventure in reconstructive leg surgery, Amanda mustered her resources and turned the observation deck into a fox enclosure for the winter because he was going to have to spend it indoors. And I will never forget the first day. He found the window, he had a room with a view, and the wolves pulled up lawn chairs, took out bowls of popcorn, and settled down to watch the Fox Channel for a while.
With Jessica's tribute, it did remind me of one of my more favorite memories, which involves Basil, yet does not involve Basil. During one of our anniversary parties, having it at the theater downtown, we had the Howl contest, and we had a portion of this Howl contest that could be extracted into different animals or specific animals. And with that, I would love to bring back Andrew and Jessica to redo their Howl performance that they did was actually of the foxes themselves. And man, when they did it, it was like, that really is Basil and Ember. Oh my God. So in memory of Basil, I would love a repeat performance.
Encore! Encore!